We judged that when they had not finished arranging 4 mines, the 2 engineer soldiers walked up, forcing them to withdraw into hiding because, deep inside, having to pull hard with a rattan vine plus raining for many days made the ground soft, so when pulling hard the stake tying 2 mines fell inward, so our 2 engineer soldiers escaped death and in panic did not have time to fire but ran straight into the forest, cutting a straight path back to the regiment infirmary to extract a few shrapnel pieces from their buttocks, and the Pol Pot guys knew they were exposed, so they also retreated if they dared to risk lying back to wait for the 4 brothers of Company 18 to come up, or if I had a faster reflex to dash into the roadside, surely now I would have been sitting on the altar for 30 years, because there was still 1 P.2 mine waiting when we returned to the squad outpost. Losing a comrade was truly sad. The sky kept raining all year round. The brothers no longer had even a cigarette to roll and smoke. The atmosphere at the outpost was truly suffocating. Each person in a corner, no one said a word to anyone for a long time. To break that atmosphere, Brother Nan called out, "Okay guys, spread out, search the 3 outpost houses, find every nook and cranny to hunt for some crickets, gather them to make a cricket fry. 5 heads gathered together, each person dragging a puff of cigarette, was truly delicious at that moment." We fully realized the meaning of the word comrade along Route 58. The 12.7mm outpost was in the east direction, about 2 or 3 kilometers from CNP's the west direction was about 4 or 5 kilometers from the Co, and the north direction was the main direction Pol Pot usually penetrated into the rear of the regimental headquarters, so in this direction the outpost placed a 12.7mm gun. After that ambush, Pol Pot often clung to the road to lay mines, and in the following month when Squad 4 came up to replace the outpost, 1 brother from Than Hoa, a soldier from 80, also sacrificed. He was hit while on patrol checking and stepped on a P.2 mine, and most tense was in early 1983. Knowing this was an extremely important outpost point, Pol Pot gathered strength to surround and intentionally destroy the outpost that night. The moon was dim about 2 or 3 am during the guard shift of Brother Hong. Soldier from 81 suddenly heard many strange noises. Brother Hong stepped out to Route 58, then knelt down on the ground, looking up towards the direction of the engineering company, and saw many human figures crossing Route 58 to the south direction. Determining the enemy was trying to surround the outpost, Brother Hong alerted the squad to the trenches and saw many Pol Pot shadows trying to surround from the north and south directions. When Brother Ho, the shooter one, fired a few short bursts, the 12.7 gun suddenly malfunctioned. At this time, the brothers opened fire simultaneously, but because the outpost did not have a minefield to prevent sweeping and Pol Pot was too close, they used B-40 and even B-45, raising hands high and firing down into the outpost position very sharply, forcing the whole squad to abandon the 12.7 gun and withdraw to the west, because at this time on the south face they also started firing, burning 2 houses. In the south and east, when the 12.7 outpost was attacked, the regimental headquarters immediately dispatched the regiment military police and the transport company down to reinforce them. Engineering company located nearest to the outpost also just ran and fired to reinforce. The whole squad was pushed out of the outpost, withdrawing to the place where the burnt M113 vehicle lay to wait for reinforcements. When returning to the outpost, Pol Pot had retreated. 3 houses were burnt and 1 M79 lost. As for the 12.7 gun, they only managed to open the 2 cradle locks and fired a few bursts into the gun body. It seems they did not know how to pull the pin connecting to the rear cover part, or because the engineering company reinforced in time, so they had to run away, not daring to take the gun, and in the north and south directions they dragged away, following many blood trails towards the north. Since that battle, the regimental headquarters did not allow staying at the outpost overnight, and also from then on this place was often mined so much that there was a danger sign, "Beware of mines," for brothers to pay attention, and the regimental headquarters also decided to abandon this outpost. The brothers retreated to the base of Company 18. Whenever there was a convoy going in or out, announced Company 18 would send 6 people up to that position to guard the road, then in the afternoon return to Company 18, also at this outpost area of Company 18. During the period from August 83 to February 85, I had 2 near-death experiences in this area. The first time that morning, going to guard Route 50. 8 for the regimental headquarters convoy going to the division to buy goods and work. Company 18 at that time went to guard, consisting of me, Son Trong, Tian Hai, and Fong, going down from the regimental headquarters to the outpost at the first position, arranged for Hai and Vuong to stay. There, guarding the four of us, continued to go when reaching the beginning of the Company 18 outpost. Sun, walking in front, stepped over a new P.2 mine wire, then discovered it and called to stop it. This time Sun Pantleg had brushed past the mine wire, but not enough force to trip the mine pin from the direction of the engineers. Two people doing mine detection duty were coming. That was Tan from T9, a soldier from 82, clearing the road on the south side, and on the north road was a new soldier. Brother, we shouted to announce there was a mine for the engineers to detect carefully when the two sides met. Looking over, Tom said, you guys stepped over the mine already, right? No pole pot. Guy would lay a mine like this. After that, he used a long string tying a small bush to pull and detonate the mine. But that mine was a dud and did not explode, and we continued to clear the road back to the regimental headquarters, when the marching column went out to the division, reaching right at Outpost 18. At this time, Lee was standing near the termite mound near the outpost on the south side of the road, while on the north side of the road the army marched in a single file. Company 18 had Brother Than Phong going to buy goods on this trip, just passing the outpost for a few people. Then Brother and a soldier from 82, also from Ho Chi Minh City, stepped right on a 652 Alpha mine right near the edge of the communication trench of Company 18 at that moment. Hearing the explosion, I also stood still on the spot, and later when checking the termite mound right where I stood, also had a 652 Alpha mine, truly the ancestors protected, because at that time, hearing the explosion, if I had just stepped up hurriedly, surely now I would not be sitting here to write with you guys anymore. And the second time also at this outpost position right at the termite mound inside where Brother and stepped on the mine last time I sat at this termite mound from morning until noon, going up and down, in and out several times. After that, taking out the rice ball to eat a grain of rice, fell on the termite mound. A black ant ran to carry the rice grain because of eating, and being bored, I took the mine probe fishing rod to poke the ant carrying rice for fun, then discovered why the termite mound had a spot of loose soil. I used the stick to brush away the soil, then revealed a 652 Alpha guy, truly too lucky back then, in 1983, when the base of Company 18 was exposed. There were many opinions, however, in my opinion back then, the base was exposed partly due to the management style of the company officers. The thing is, when moving the base from Palin to Toko at the new base, the main task was construction of houses, tunnels, trenches, and the duty was to guard Route 58 every month. A squad would go up to replace the outpost once, so all activities at the unit were maintained by duty officers, fully 11 regimes in the day and 5 sleeping nights in the week, very methodically, exactly like a unit in a barracks. Back in the country, and every command maintained had to use a gong in the morning. The alarm gong sounded for exercise. Hygiene and folding furniture like in military school, even clothes Brothers washed and dried, had to be shirts with shirts, pants with pants, and unified in a common direction of the whole company coming back from duty at night, hurriedly eating rice, then taking advantage of squad meeting and assigning work for tomorrow. Again, the company gathering gong sounded urgently to go to the hall to read newspapers and listen to the radio, but honestly the newspapers were all old from God knows when now being read again. There were many days with no moon or stars, pitch black sky, having to move in the bamboo forest, seeing no path, scratched by bamboo thorns, tearing skin when arriving at the hall, a bit late, getting criticized, truly too frustrating. Some company officers did not understand soldiers at that time in the company. Any brother who had a notebook to write down golden music, if discovered by the company commander, was confiscated immediately, or if brothers accidentally hummed a few sentences, they were criticized for the crime of propagating decadent cultural products. Oh, but there were nights on duty I even discovered that the company command side turned on Voice of America radio to listen to Carnley music uniquely. If it were a unit in the country, I would say nothing, but this was a combat unit, right, facing the enemy, still having to keep secrets, yet the company commander wing did the opposite, living like a regular unit in military school. Gongs kept beating continuously like announcing for Pol Pot to come. How was it different from saying, "Here I am, come get me," until they discovered and hit a surprise battle, sacrificing one person, and at that time, many wounded brothers were still sitting in the communication trenches bandaging themselves for each other, while the officer only scratched his forehead a bit due to hitting his head on the command bunker, shouted loudly, and then also from then on the unit was regularly raided by them, causing the brothers a lot of misery, although later that gong-beating regime also stopped until about the end of 1983. There was a bright moonlit night Why, native of Dong Tap, a soldier from 83 was on mortar guard duty when suddenly hearing a very loud mine explosion in the direction of the engineering company after that. There were many B-40 and AK explosions continuously, so the engineering wing had been raided by Pol Pot. When hearing the first explosion, the brothers of Company 18 all went out to the trenches. I ordered the squad to pay attention to prevent Pol Pot from raiding the unit, blocking us from reinforcing the engineering side. Just finishing the command from afar, we saw 2 fire spots and the departing sound of DKZ-82 firing towards the company direction, so Pol Pot also started raiding from afar and very accurately into our squad formation. Flashes accompanied by continuous explosions covered the squad. Brothers had to go deep into the trenches to endure. Suddenly I saw a flash light up right at the guard post. The explosion sound made a tree nearby shake. Standing at the 12.7mm gun bunker, I shouted loudly, ordering Ha to move along the trench to the guard post to see if Y had withdrawn, and yet a moment later heard her voice calling with a startled "Why? Oh, why? Oh, why?" So I knew one more comrade had to fall down again. Y sacrificed due to being hit by a DKZ shell penetrating the bunker, one warhead still stuck in the middle of his chest when the sky brightened and gunfire ceased. The company gathered 2 squads, leaving the unit to pursue Pol Pot. Following the regiment order, we moved out about more than 2 kilometers, still encountering nothing, so stopped to ambush until about 10 am, then withdrew troops to the unit. At this time, Y was also brought back to the regiment by the transport company for shrouding. My squad missed one more person. September 2nd, 1983. That morning I was in charge along with 5 other brothers, performing patrol and ambush duty thinking, so I decided to go back to Battambang to hang out with my friends who were under treatment there. However, upon arriving, all plans changed when I met Mr. Thung, who was then the platoon leader of the 16th Company, a soldier from the 74 intake, and also my fellow townsman. I don't know if he was on leave or had been discharged. It was probably just some flimsy paperwork to make it legitimate, because to be discharged or go on leave the division's vehicle should have come to pick him up carefully. Well, he invited me to return home. That was it. I immediately went to see Mr. Ho of the 25th Transport Company to borrow some money. I don't remember if he gave me 200 or 2,000 dong. I only remember the number 2. So with money in hand, the very next morning, Mr. Thung and I went to the Battambang train station located in the western part of the city near the makeshift market. We boarded the train. I recall there were about 10 cars more or less, but they were all cargo cars. Cambodian civilians traveling to trade from Battambang to Phnom Penh had filled the cars completely. Mr. Thung had documents, so he sat right by the car's entrance. As for me, since I had no papers, I blended deep inside the car, sitting among the Cambodian traders. As the train started to move, a military control patrol passed through the cars to check for any hiding soldiers. The Cambodian people understood my intention and draped their clothes over my head to shield me from the eyes of the military control officers. As the train moved, I saw soldiers from some unit riding on the roof of the car, seemingly to protect the train. Who knows, perhaps it was Mr. Leheo of our own unit at that time. The train passed through villages and forests with no one in sight. Sitting on the train, I felt a sense of fear, thinking that if we were ambushed, we would surely die, and then neither my unit nor my family would ever know where I'd perished in this country of Cambodia. But that was just a fleeting thought. The yearning and the thrill of going home immediately overshadowed it. Besides, I had already mounted the tiger's back. I had to accept it. And luckily, the train journey was safe. I don't recall exactly how long the train traveled, only that by late afternoon, the 2 of us were at the Phnom Penh station. Mr. Thung exited through the main gate, while I had to find a way to sneak out. The 2 of us then wandered around Phnom Penh city. Around 8 o'clock in the evening, we managed to ask for directions to the Saigon Bridge. Here I saw life beginning to return to normal. Stores and stalls were bustling on both sidewalks. On the western side of the Saigon Bridge, I saw a military control guard post. As I passed by, my heart was probably pounding as loud as a village drum. But everything went smoothly. About 200 meters after crossing to the eastern side of the Saigon Bridge, Mr. Thung and I found a spot to hang our hammocks and sleep for the night. This was another foolish move. Why didn't we think to ask to sleep safely inside a Vietnamese unit's quarters? The final stretch home the next morning around 8 o'clock, we saw a convoy of transport trucks from Ho Chi Minh City heading back to Vietnam after unloading their goods. We asked for a ride, so by that afternoon we were in Shivering and then Bave. About 1 or 2 kilometers from the Mok Bai border post on the Cambodian side, I asked to get off the truck. Mr. Thung, who had papers, continued his journey in the truck. The two of us had agreed that if I didn't show up at the Godao T junction the next morning, Mr. Thung should continue his journey. By this time, the sun was almost setting in the west. I adjusted my flat backpack and started walking towards the Cambodian guard post. The Cambodian soldiers looked at me and asked Bong Tong Nai. I pointed towards Vietnam and answered, assuming they would understand and let me pass. So I slipped past the barrier, but the Cambodian soldier rushed inside and said something unintelligible. Then I saw a Vietnamese soldier come out and tell me to stop. Oh my, I broke out in a cold sweat. I quickly gave some incoherent explanation, but the main goal was to trick the Vietnamese soldier into believing I was returning to Hospital 175 to get my discharge papers, which I had lost, and that I would return to my unit later. I don't know if he was busy inside or if I talked sweetly enough, but the man turned and walked back in. Phew, I had escaped. About 200 meters past the post, I stopped to rest by the side of the road on the north side, observing the empty field on the left heading towards Vietnam. I used the Mok Bai post as a reference point to follow the 2 sides of the triangle to cross the border back into Vietnam. So I walked alone, stumbling across the desolate field following the small trails left by smugglers. Luckily, it was the dry season, so the trails were easy to see. It was nearly 10 o'clock at night when I reached Highway 1. I saw a few small shops on the north side of the road already closed, and on the south side was a canal. Luckily, I saw one shop that was cleaning up to close. It was a young couple. After enjoying a glass of sugarcane juice, I started chatting and suggested paying the husband to give me a ride lay to Godao on his bicycle. Just then I saw an armed police soldier heading home after finishing his duty at the post on the other side of the Godao Bridge. And it seemed he knew the shop owner. I saw the shop owner ask the police soldier to give me a ride. Well, I immediately hopped onto the back of his bicycle. The 2 of us soldiers talked casually as we rode. The night sky was full of stars, cool and comfortable. It had been nearly 2 years since I was back in the motherland. I was so happy the journey back home was almost complete. I only had 2 more obstacles to overcome: the military control checkpoint on the western side of the Godao Bridge in Tay Nang province and 1 more checkpoint in the Trang Bang area. The 2 of us stopped for a moment to smoke. I was craving a cigarette and he offered me one. I don't know if it was Samick or 85 tobacco, but it was fragrant and delicious. It was then that I admitted to him that I was a patient and wanted to sneak home to visit my family for a bit. I also asked if there were any other military control checkpoints nearby. He told me there was 1 more station on the west side of the Godao Bridge, but he knew many people there. A moment later, the 2 of us arrived at the military control checkpoint. He went in, offered cigarettes, and chatted with the other soldiers while I stood outside holding the bicycle. He seemed to introduce me as his soldier who had finished his shift and was heading home with him. I passed the checkpoint without a hitch. About 100 meters after crossing to the eastern side of the Godao Bridge, he and I parted ways. He invited me to spend the night at his house, but I declined because I had an appointment with Mr. Thung. So the 2 of us said goodbye. When I'd walked a short distance, he called me back and pressed a partially smoked packet of Samick cigarettes into my hand. I thanked him and parted ways. I arrived at the Godao T junction to look for Mr. Thung as planned. After searching for a while, I found him. He was sleeping in a hammock under a porch right next to the road at the Godao T junction. There were a few other hammocks belonging to smugglers and seemingly other soldiers too. Around 1 o'clock, a red bus drove by. The conductor shouted loudly, calling for passengers heading to Ho Chi Minh City. He and I immediately climbed onto the bus. I don't remember how long the distance or the time was, but the bus stopped at a military control checkpoint with a bar across the road. Inside the post, I saw 2 military control soldiers. One soldier wearily stepped out to inspect the bus. He just stood below the bus door, looked up, and then went back inside the post. The barrier was lifted. I let out a sigh of relief. Later, after returning to my unit, I passed through this station again and was harassed severely by the military control soldiers for my papers and military identification. The bus continued. I don't remember what time it was when we reached the Mien Tay bus station. We went to stay temporarily at a friend of his for about 2 days. Then we boarded the train heading north. However, only Mr. Thung bought a ticket. I didn't have enough money, so I rode without a ticket. Trains in the 80s were so chaotic, messy, and dirty. The car we were in was full of traders with only a few soldiers like me. I didn't know if they were on duty or doing what I was doing. Among them was one soldier. I don't know if he was an enlisted man or an officer who constantly carried a heavy pistol on his hip. His face was beet red from alcohol. His loud voice continuously announced things like how his unit in Cambodia fought this way and that, and how many of our soldiers were killed, and so on and so forth. When we passed the Nha Trang station, he jumped off the train to buy something. Then 3 military control officers came over and talked to him. A moment later, they confiscated his pistol. He probably didn't have a valid permit. Then they brought him back onto the train to take his belongings off. I turned pale and quickly hid. The train continued its journey. Luckily, there was one less loudmouth talking nonsense after drinking. At the time, because I didn't have money for a ticket, it was quite difficult for me. Every time the conductor came to check tickets, I had to run and hide through the cars. Eventually, I couldn't hide anymore. I lay face down, spooning onto some cargo boxes between the 2 rows of passenger seats. To make matters worse, the Malaria girl came to torment me. My body shivered uncontrollably, which made the traders nervous. Fortunately, Mr. Thung took his canvas hammock and wrapped it around me. Seeing this, the traders joined in, covering me with a few sacks to keep me warm. I stopped having a fever in the afternoon. From then until the Hue station, I was helped with food by the women traders. All the traders got off at the Hue station. The train back then running from Saigon was so incredibly slow. The Saigon to Vinh journey took 3 days and 2 nights. When the train arrived at Dong Hoa station, I had no money left in my pocket. But because I had malaria, I didn't even crave food. Yet when I saw the boiled sweet potatoes being sold by the locals on the train, I felt a longing for them. The conductors probably didn't pay any attention to me anymore, seeing my ghostly appearance. The train arrived at Vinh station around 12 o'clock at night. Mr. Thung with his ticket exited through the main gate while I climbed over the wall with the traders. The 2 of us said goodbye. I took a horse-drawn carriage home. At that time, in Vinh, transporting passengers from the station to various areas in the city was still done entirely by horse-drawn carriage. After nearly 1 hour, I finally arrived home, having wandered around the construction area of Quang Trung Street. Everyone at home was asleep, but the door wasn't locked. I walked in and called out loudly, "Mom, Dad, I'm home." My parents and my younger siblings woke up with a start. My mother hugged me and cried, while my father couldn't say a word, just stood and watched tears streaming down his face. From that moment until morning, no one in the family slept. Home and returned to duty. After spending some time at home, my family's care gradually restored my health. Only the malaria continued to torment me, but luckily it was only every other day. My parents looked for whatever remedies people suggested to treat me, including swallowing the green earthworm, but it didn't work. However, my father later asked an old medic to buy me a few vials of malaria medicine for injection, and from then on the fever attacks stopped tormenting me. Hearing that a soldier had returned from Cambodia, people in the neighborhood and nearby came to ask if I had served in the same unit as their sons and what the war situation was like over there. I could only offer a brief overview and general comfort. During my time at home, my school friends had all gone to work or were studying. They only had Saturdays and Sundays off, so I didn't know who to hang out with and felt sad and bored. Moreover, whenever I went out with them, I felt out of place. They wore flared pants, tight shirts, and hippie hairstyles, while I only had my military clothes. To be honest, at that time, I didn't feel like I could wear those clothes. They felt awkward. When my health recovered, I began to think about returning to the unit. I decided on a day to go back, but there was a major hurdle traveling alone. I also learned from the locals that in Vinh Tan commune next to ours, Mr. X1, a soldier from the 74 intake in the 25th Transport Company of our division, was also nearly at the end of his leave. Through more inquiries, I learned that Vinh Bay 2C from Company 12.7 of Regiment 250 was also preparing to return to the unit. So we immediately contacted each other and set a date to return to Cambodia. But this next part is interesting, folks. With only a few days left until the day we decided to return to the unit, I got a girlfriend. She was a friend I had studied with in the same class since high school. I joined the army at the end of 9th grade and she continued her studies. I don't know if it was love, but I only know that we were very attached to each other. The time to return to the unit arrived very quickly. We bought train tickets. This time I had a proper ticket and didn't have to sneak aboard. I kept it a secret from my girlfriend that we would be separated soon. The day arrived. That evening I asked her parents for permission to go out with her. It was probably the first time in the life of this young man that he went out with his girlfriend. The two of us just walked around and then returned to our house. I didn't know what to say. I was too nervous to speak. Our conversations were just about trivial things. Around a little past 9 o'clock in the evening, I said goodbye to her parents as I was taking the train the next day. It was only when she walked me out to the gate that she started crying. I could only comfort her. And to be honest, folks, there was no passionate hugging and kissing like in the movies. I only held her hand and said goodbye. At that moment, I just thought, I wonder if I'll ever have the chance to see her again because my friend had to go to school tomorrow and my train was leaving at 12 o'clock. Then turning my back, I walked away quickly as if running away. And that night I couldn't sleep a wink.